It was a stormy evening, the kind that stirs the darkest corners of the mind, where shadows seem to whisper secrets and attention-seeking raindrops drum against the window like nature's very own percussion. Sarah sat curled up on the edge of her bed, her heart racing with anticipation. She was acutely aware of the emptiness surrounding her eerily quiet house, save for the occasional crack of thunder. Just moments ago, she had envisioned excitement and adventure for herself, but now doubt crept in, wrapping around her heart like a vine, squeezing tighter with every passing moment. Would tonight be different? Would she break the chains that had kept her stagnant for so long? Taking a deep breath, Sarah pulled herself up, making her way cautiously toward the mirror. She looked at her reflection, a woman tangled in the web of her own life, with tired eyes that craved something more, a spark, an awakening, a breath of fresh air. That's when she heard it. A faint bark echoed from down the hall, slicing through her self-doubt like a ray of sunlight breaking through ominous clouds. There he was, Jake, her golden retriever, bounding into her room as if he could sense her unrest. His golden fur glimmered under the soft glow of the bedside lamp, and his joyful spirit was contagious. As he danced around her legs, wagging his tail vigorously, Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was as if he radiated light, illuminating the darkness that had curled around her heart. "Hey, buddy," she laughed softly, leaning down to pet him. The world outside might be stormy and uncertain, but in this moment, Jake was her unwavering source of joy. They shared an unbreakable bond, a connection that was deeper than words could express. He was more than just a pet, he was her confidant. Her source of courage. Days working in a fast-paced corporate environment had drained her, leaving her feeling detached from what once made her come alive. Mark, her husband, was often too engulfed in his own world, glued to screens, immersed in games that didn't involve her. While he found solace in virtual realities, Sarah found herself craving real experiences, real interactions, warmth that she felt was slipping through her fingers. Suddenly, Jake nudged her with his nose, dragging her back into the present. Leaning into him, she whispered, "Let's escape this gloom, shall we?" With renewed energy, she grabbed his leash, and the two set off on a spontaneous walk, conquering the night together as a dynamic duo facing the storm outside. The rain drummed on the pavement, but it felt refreshing rather than damaging, like a cleanse. Sarah allowed herself to breathe, to be present. With each step, she could feel the bond deepening, her spirit soaring alongside Jake's exuberance. As they walked through familiar streets, each puddle seemed like an opportunity for Jake, launching into joyous splashes, soaking them both in laughter. However, lingering resentment bubbled beneath the surface. Why didn't Mark ever join her? Why was she the one left to seek comfort in her four-legged friend? The questions twisted together, darkening the edges of the fun they shared. But Jake didn't care about those musings. He was a beacon of joy, and she was resolute to cherish their time together. As they neared the park, the trees swayed to the rhythm of the wind, as if encouraging her to embrace life more fully. Jake bounded ahead, eager to greet other dogs that played in bursts of energy against the backdrop of darkened clouds. In that reflective moment, Sarah watched him, heart swelling with affection and determination. Her life was far from perfect, but she promised herself it would change. Suddenly, she felt a tap on her shoulder, breaking her thoughts. It was Mia, one of the neighbors she hadn't spoken to in ages. "Is that Jake? He's gotten so big," Mia exclaimed, flashing a bright smile, her infectious enthusiasm turning the moment into magic. The clouds seemed to dissipate at the sight of their shared joy. "Yeah, he certainly has," Sarah said, laughing. Surprisingly, she felt a flicker of connection igniting again, their shared love for dogs bridging the gaps left by unspoken words. As they chatted, Sarah realized how easily laughter could weave itself back into her life when she let it. Mia suggested an idea: why not host a dog meetup? The thrill of community swept through Sarah like a gust of wind, energizing her spirit. "Yes. Let's do it," Sarah found herself exclaiming, and with each enthusiastic word, she could feel her heart beating louder. It wasn't just a way to bring their beloved dogs together, it was a chance to foster connections not only for Jake, but for herself as well. After saying goodbye to Mia, Sarah made her way home, spirit buoyed with newfound possibilities. Jake trotted alongside her, proud and confident, as if he understood that his mere presence had reignited a flame within her. In the living room, the smell of takeout lingered, and the flickering screen revealed Mark, thoroughly absorbed in his game. With Jake by her side, Sarah took a deep breath. "I'm going to do this," she said softly, an unbreakable resolve setting in. She knew that life with Mark could feel like running in place, but tonight, she dared to take the first steps toward change. It wasn't just about Jake anymore. It was about reclaiming her life. As she settled down, Jake curled up next to her, his warm weight comforting as she began drafting a plan. The community meetup flyer formed in her mind. Ideas flowed effortlessly, filling the blank page with hope and excitement. Each word felt like a step toward liberation, an act of defiance against the status quo. In that quiet moment, illuminated by a glimmer of determination, Sarah knew she was on the brink of something extraordinary. Jake lay beside her, his gentle breathing a reminder that love doesn't need to be complicated. Sometimes, it's just as simple as a warm body, an understanding soul, and the promise of new beginnings. Tonight marked the beginning of their journey, not just as a woman and her dog, but as a duo who would navigate the complexities of life together, forging connections under stormy skies. She could feel the winds of change beckoning, and with Jake by her side, she was ready to answer the call. Whispered secrets. The following weeks unfolded like a vibrant tapestry woven with anticipation and excitement. Sarah and Jake became a whirlwind of energy as they prepared for the inaugural dog meetup. Each afternoon, the two ventured to the park, spreading flyers and sharing their idea with dog lovers in the neighborhood. Sarah felt her heart swell with purpose every time she handed out a flyer, seeing the sparkle of interest in people's eyes. However, the more she engaged with the community, the more she noticed the absence of Mark's involvement. Despite the growing excitement around her, their home life had grown increasingly disconnected. Conversations were minimal, and once warm moments had turned icy. Mark remained absorbed in his video games, often oblivious to the world outside. Sarah would find herself looking at him, a lump forming in her throat as she faced the reality of their widening chasm. One evening, as they sat in silence at the dinner table, Sarah felt the tension suffocating her. She placed her fork down with a soft clink that echoed louder than she intended. "Mark," she started, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "Can we talk about something important?" His eyes remained glued to the screen across the room. "Can it wait?" "I just need to finish this level," he replied, dismissing her with a wave of his hand, as if she were an annoying fly buzzing around his focus. The moment hung thick in the air. She swallowed hard, unsure if she should push further. Instead, the image of Jake, his unwavering loyalty, and the joy he brought flooded her mind. That evening, as she lay in bed, her heart ached not just for herself but for Mark, who seemed lost in a world that didn't include her. If sensing her emotional struggle, Jake curled up close, instinctively shifting to wrap his body around her leg, a living shield against the tumult of her thoughts. "You're my solid ground, you know that?" Sarah whispered, scratching behind his ears. The room felt warmer, alive, and Jake gazed at her with those big, understanding eyes, as if he could take the weight of her burdens away. The day of the meetup dawned with bright sunshine, captivating all of Sarah's worries. The park, usually tranquil, buzzed with life as dog owners began to gather. There was an undeniable thrill in the air as dogs of all shapes and sizes scampered about, their barks blending into an orchestra of joy. Sarah stood at the entrance, flanked by Jake, who proudly wagged his tail, embodying the spirit of their event. She was dressed in a bright yellow shirt symbolic of her optimism. It felt like a beacon against the muted colors of her recent past. The turnout exceeded her expectations, and as people poured in, Sarah felt herself glowing brighter. "Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you could make it," Sarah called out, her voice quivering with enthusiasm. The sight of so many smiling faces filled her with warmth. As the dogs darted toward one another, Jake joined the fun, bounding through the park. Making new friends with ease, while mingling, Sarah developed a connection with several attendees. Mia introduced her to Anna, a spirited woman whose dog, Max, had an uncanny ability to charm everyone he met. They shared stories, laughter, and a sense of camaraderie that Sarah had desperately missed, but even amid the delightful chaos, Sarah felt a shadow lurk in her mind, nagging at her. Mark's absence felt heavier than ever. She scanned the crowd, hoping he might show up, but the reality was staring her in the face. He was not here to share in this joyful experience. Disappointment seeped into her heart, mixing with the joy of the day. "I'll be right back," she told Mia, who was deep in conversation with another dog owner. Sarah ventured toward a quieter corner of the park, her heart racing as she struggled to reconcile her emotions. Jake followed, sensing her unease. His warm presence a gentle reminder that not all were lost. "Why can't you just be here?" she asked the empty air, a question more for herself than for Mark. It was one more instance of how they had drifted apart, but she tried to shake it off. Today was meant for celebration. Just then, a light tug on the leash caught her attention. Jake had taken it upon himself to greet a tiny dachshund who was yapping excitedly. "Look at you, little troublemaker," she laughed, watching him roll and play, his spirit infectious. As if in reward, Jake returned with his new friend and a group of delighted kids trailing behind. The joyous spirit of the day wrapped around Sarah like a warm embrace. As the meetup progressed, the atmosphere turned electric. Dog owners paired off for games, sharing tips on training, and swapping anecdotes filled with laughter. With every passing moment, Sarah's heart lightened, her focus shifting away from the void Mark left behind. The community she had long yearned for was flourishing right before her eyes, but just as she found herself swept in joy, fate twisted the knife. Mid-laugh, she noticed a figure lingering at the edge of the gathering. Her stomach dropped. It was Mark. He was standing there, slightly bewildered, scanning the scene as if he had stepped into another world entirely. Their eyes locked, and for a second, time froze around them. She felt a twinge of hope mixed with uncertainty. Why had he come? Just as quickly, however, the thrill of the day faded slightly as she noticed the disinterested look etched across his face. He walked over, looking at Jake, who was blissfully unaware of the tensions brewing beneath the surface. "Looks like he's having fun," Mark said, attempting to mask his indifference, but Sarah could tell his heart wasn't in it. "What's this all about, anyway?" Frustration simmered within her. "It's about community, connection, celebrating the joy our dogs bring us. It's what I've been trying to include you in, Mark." Her voice was too loud, rising like the storm clouds that seemed to hang ominously above them. Mark shrugged, a gesture that felt all too familiar, signaling he didn't really want to engage. "I don't know, Sarah. It just seems pointless." The words cut deeper than she expected. With a wave of disappointment washing over her, she turned away and reabsorbed herself in the festivities. She felt Jake push against her, his presence a soothing balm against the ache in her heart. "Hey, are you all right?" Mia approached, concern etched on her face.
"Yeah,
"Just family stuff," Sarah replied dismissively. Mia reached out and squeezed her shoulder. "You're doing something amazing here. Don't let anyone steal your joy, including him." With Jake by her side, Sarah took a deep breath and determined to not let Mark's lack of interest overshadow the radiance of the day. Instead, she threw herself back into the activities, engaging with games and sharing stories. Laughter spilled from her lips, and it felt good to let go, even if only for a moment. As the sun began setting, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink, she caught glimpses of mixed feelings swirling in her heart. Mark stayed at the edge, never fully joining, just observing as if she were a world he couldn't relate to anymore, just when Sarah thought the day couldn't get any more magical. Jake dashed away, barking excitedly. He had found a flash of momentous squirrel darting across the grass. The ensuing chaos erupted, dogs barking and owners laughing as they chased after Jake. In the midst of the fray, Sarah felt a rush of empowerment. She was no longer waiting for Mark to join her, she was creating moments of joy for herself and those around her. The connection she sought didn't have to come solely from within her marriage. It blossomed from her friendships, her community, and the surprising joy her dog provided her in these moments of unity. With a newfound strength enveloping her, Sarah decided that this event wouldn't just be a one-time gathering. It had given her light amidst the darkness, and she was determined to keep that light shining bright. As she glanced at Mark one last time, feeling a mixture of love, frustration, and determination, she knew this was just the beginning of a transformative journey for herself, Jake, and the community they had inadvertently created together. Under the setting sun, with laughter and joy ringing around her, a simmering resolve ignited within Sarah. She would reclaim her happiness, with or without Mark's support. The turning point, the aftermath of the meetup, was a whirlwind of emotions for Sarah. Days faded into each other, a kaleidoscope of laughter, new friendships, and a growing longing for something more profound within her home life. Each morning, she woke up with Jake by her side, the comfort of his presence a bright spot in her days, but as she grew closer to her community, a question nagged at her relentlessly: where did Mark fit into this new chapter? As Jake raced around the house, chasing his tail in a fit of joy, Sarah couldn't help but smile. Yet that happiness was tinged with frustration every time she caught a glimpse of Mark, who continued to retreat further into his digital realm. It was as if a wall had risen between them, and her heart sank whenever she realized how invisible she felt to him in the physical space they once shared. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day at work, Sarah returned home with the faintest hope that Mark might be willing to engage. She had planned a simple dinner to create a moment of connection. Dishes filled with the aroma of their favorite meal filled the kitchen, but her heart sank as she found him, once again, lost in a world of flashing screens and biting commentary from online opponents. Mark. She called softly, placing her hand on his shoulder, feeling a mix of love and desperation. Can we sit and have dinner together? He barely looked up. Just a minute, Sarah. I'm in the middle of a game. A sigh escaped her, heavy with realization. She had tried opening the door to connection, but all she felt were indifference and silence in return. The tension in her chest tightened. It was not just about dinner. It was an embodiment of everything they had slowly lost. Dinner will get cold, she replied, attempting to soften her words, but there was an edge of frustration in her tone. Great, mac and cheese. Just the thing to fill the void. His words hung heavy in the air, mingling with the clinking of keys and undeterred, pulsating sound of the game. Sarah felt her heart clench. With nothing more to say, she pulled away, leaving him to his virtual escapades. Jake followed her, sensing the shift in mood, as she headed back into the comforting embrace of their softly lit living room. She curled up on the couch, exhaustion enveloping her like a thick blanket. Jake jumped up beside her, resting his head on her lap. She took a deep breath, yearning to reclaim the spark she once had. In the days that followed, her focus shifted to her community and the upcoming dog agility competition she had signed up for. It was a spirited event, and contestants were to showcase their dogs navigating various obstacle courses. The idea thrilled her, igniting a craving for achievement that had been absent for far too long. As she filled evenings with planning and training for Jake, Sarah felt alive again, her heart beating to the rhythm of hope rather than heartache. Jake seemed to revel in the challenges, each hurdle and wavy of cones bringing out an exuberance that made her smile wider each time. Together, they practiced tirelessly at the park, their bond growing ever stronger. Yet, as another week unfolded, a gnawing sense of unease settled uneasily in Sarah's gut. Each time they returned home, she felt the barrier between them grow taller and broader. A part of her wished Mark would reach out, make the effort to join in on their journey. Each moment of silence gnawed at her heart, reminding her they existed in separate worlds, despite occupying the same space. But on the night before the agility competition, Sarah felt a swirl of emotion surge within her. She secured her hair into a neat ponytail, choosing a bright blue shirt to match Jake's fur. She glanced over to find Mark still staring at the screen, completely unperturbed by her preparation. Frustration bubbled within her again, but this time she resolved to confront it. Mark, she started, her voice steady, cool down the rising heat of indignation. I really need you to be here tomorrow. It means a lot to me. He paused but then continued to play, a slight nod his only acknowledgement.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can make it. Disappointment washed over her like a bitter tide. It's not just a we'll see situation. You're my husband, I want you to support me. I want you to be a part of this, to cheer for Jake and me. Mark's demeanor shifted, and he exhaled sharply, frustration flaring in his eyes. For heaven's sake, Sarah. I can't just drop everything for a dog competition. This is what I enjoy. Can't you see that? Her heart sank to her stomach. The tension in the air seemed to crackle like electricity, charged with unsaid words and cloaked emotions. This isn't about you not enjoying your games. It's about us. It's about what we've lost, and I'm trying to reach out, but it feels like I'm shouting into an abyss. He turned, sensing the weight of her words. I don't know what you want from me. For a moment, silence reigned between them, heavy and taut. Sarah's heart raced, every beat echoing her deepest fear that they were indeed spiraling toward irreparable distances. I want to share my life with you, she whispered, tears threatening to spill over. Mark's eyes softened momentarily but then hardened once more. You've changed, Sarah. You're involved in all these new things that I don't understand. I can't keep up. Each word sliced through her resolve, but something inside her stirred. Then be a part of it. Be a part of me again. I miss you. Before Mark could reply, his phone buzzed, pulling him back into his digital world. The moment shattered as he picked it up, completely disregarding her emotional upheaval. Helplessness overwhelmed her. Later that night, Jake jumped onto the bed, sensing her inner turmoil. She wrapped her arms around him tightly, feeling his warmth seep into her. I don't know how to fix this, she murmured, looking into his earnest eyes, hoping for some wisdom from the furry companion who always seemed to understand. With a shake of her head, she fell asleep, uncertainty clinging to her like a heavy veil. The next morning dawned bright and filled with promise. The agility competition would be a fresh start, but the ache of question marks lingered in her heart. At the park, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Dog lovers gathered, eagerly discussing each other's training methods and accomplishments. Sarah found herself enveloped by the energy of encouragement and camaraderie. She longed for Mark to share this thrill, but he was still absent, caught in a web of his disinterest. Ready, Jake, she whispered as they warmed up in front of the course. Jake barked, his enthusiasm infectious, and she felt a sense of calm wash over her. Competing alongside him felt like pure magic. As they stepped to the starting line, she took a deep breath, heart pounding, ready to channel her frustrations into this moment. A whistle blew, and they were off. Jake leaped over the first hurdle, his body gliding effortlessly through the air, and Sarah matched his rhythm, her spirit soaring high. Each obstacle became a dance, a moment of exhilaration and focus. The cheers from the crowd filled her with exhilaration, and she could almost feel Mark's presence in the atmosphere. The way Jake listened to her commands, the pure joy streaming through both their souls, reminded her of the love and bond they shared. But just as they reached the final sequence of obstacles, her heart raced as she spotted Mark across the park, watching. A rush of emotions flooded her. Would he be proud? Would he understand? In that instant, she lost focus, and Jake, sensing her distraction, hesitated, faltering on the final jump. No, Jake, let's go. She called, willing him forward. But the stumble knocked her out of sync, and together they failed to clear the last hurdle. Visibly shaken, she felt the weight of shame and despair wrapped tightly around her. The crowd applauded politely. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes, the pressure to be strong slipping away. She had fought so hard to reach out, and yet all she felt was the loss of control. A moment lost to uncertainty. At Mark's eyes gazed at her, and it was in that gaze she found her strength. She rose upright, finding solace in Jake, who nuzzled him under her hand. Off the course, she wouldn't succumb to despair and excuses. This was her moment, her journey. Let's not give up, she whispered, determination reignited. They would come back stronger. She could feel it in the very fibers of her being. As she walked off the course with Jake and gathered her thoughts, she had a fleeting sense of clarity. They would persevere, not only in competition but in life. With or without Mark, she was determined to carve out a space of love and connection that felt vibrant and complete, and perhaps, just perhaps, this was the turning point. Her journey was evolving beyond the realm of her struggles, and within that evolution lay a deeper purpose. Sarah felt emboldened. It was time to confront the complexities of her life head-on, with Jake always by her side. Community connections in The days following the agility competition, Sarah found herself enveloped in a mixture of emotions. The bittersweet taste of disappointment lingered, but it was overshadowed by a growing determination to reclaim her life and the connections she had forged with her community. Each morning, she felt invigorated by her new friendships and the sense of belonging that had bloomed from the dog meetups. Jake thrived in this new environment. As they explored the park together, he embodied an infectious enthusiasm that made every walk feel like a grand adventure. Sarah often found herself laughing at his comical antics, whether it was chasing after squirrels or playfully greeting every new dog that crossed their path. She began to see that these shared experiences were nurturing her spirit in ways she had never imagined. With the sun casting a golden hue over the park, Sarah decided to organize another community event, a day of dog training workshops. She envisioned it as a way to bring everyone together, share knowledge, and deepen the bonds that had started forming. Excitement surged through her as she drafted flyers and sent out invitations to her newfound friends. This time, it felt different. She was fully invested, eager to bring joy not just to herself, but to everyone involved. Days turned into weeks, the preparations felt like a rallying cry for the community. Sarah began noticing a change in herself, a newfound confidence blossoming, illuminated by the love and laughter shared amongst dog owners. Yet in the stillness of her mind, the distance between her and Mark lingered like an uninvited guest. He had acknowledged her new endeavors, but had yet to fully engage or participate. Every time Sarah turned to find him in the living room, absorbed in his gaming world, a pang of sadness hit her. It was as if she was living parallel lives, one filled with warmth and community, the other chilled by silence and isolation. The dissonance weighed heavily, especially as their neighbors became friends who not only celebrated her triumphs but also embraced their collective love for dogs. On the day of the workshops, the sun rose with promise, casting golden rays over the park. Sarah arrived early, adrenaline pumping as she set up tables and prepared agility equipment for the demonstrations. Jake, tethered to her side, seemed to sense her excitement, bouncing around in eager anticipation as participants began to arrive. The atmosphere buzzed with laughter and chatter, resembling a festival more than a simple workshop. Dogs of all breeds roamed freely, sniffing and wagging their tails as new friendships formed. It was magical, a blend of joy, community, and shared passions. Sarah took a moment to step back, observing the scene unfold. Children ran alongside their dogs, owners shared tips and discussions, and every bark echoed with pure bliss. She felt alive, nourished by this sense of connection that had blossomed within her. And yet, as the vibrant energy filled the air, a familiar face caught her attention. Mark had arrived. He stood at the edge of the gathering, looking bemused and somewhat out of place. Slowly, she felt her heart race, uncertainty and hope intertwining within her. Would he engage? Would he allow himself to be part of this vibrant tapestry she had woven? She took a deep breath, her determination forging a pathway through her nerves. Jake wiggled excitedly, and Sarah led him over, her heart thumping in her chest. "Hey," she called, forcing a smile that she hoped conveyed her excitement rather than her anxiety. "Looks fun," Mark replied, his tone neutral as he glanced at the fray of activity happening around them. "It is. We're going to have agility demos, games, and training tips. It's so much fun." She gestured toward the crowd, joy bubbling within her.
Yeah.
"I can see that," he said, shoving his hands in his pockets. Sarah caught the flicker of a smirk, but it felt overshadowed by something familiar: disinterest. "Do you want to join us? It's a great way to meet everyone. They all love dogs just as much as we do." She didn't want to let frustration seep into her words as she hoped he'd find the enthusiasm infectious. Mark shrugged. "I guess I could hang for a bit." Tentatively, he stepped closer as Sarah led him into the thick of the crowd. Brightly colored banners rustled in the breeze, and laughter rang out. There was something ethereal about sharing this experience with him. She wanted to believe that this could be the turning point. The workshops launched with enthusiastic introductions, and Sarah took the lead. The moment felt electric as she demonstrated agility techniques with Jake, showcasing their bond. Jake bounded through the equipment, his performance turning heads and eliciting applause. For the first time, Sarah noticed Mark watching, a flicker of appreciation shimmering in his gaze. The seed of hope took root within her heart, flickering as she encouraged others to participate. The more she opened up, the more she could feel the tension between them start to dissipate. As the day progressed, she involved Mark in various activities, urging him to interact with the other attendees. They played tug-of-war with Jake and engaged in friendly banter with other dog owners. Slowly, she saw that familiar spark emerge in Mark's eyes, the warmth of connection, even in a space dominated by barking and laughter. But just as hope began to blossom, clouds rolled in, mirroring her shifting emotions. Mark's phone buzzed incessantly, and she could see the familiar compulsion draw him back into his world. She felt a tightening in her chest as he stepped away to answer it. "Hey, it's Sam," she overheard him say, his tone shifting to one of focus.
Yeah.
"I can talk later." With each word, the atmosphere felt heavier. Sarah's excitement felt thwarted, the shadow of his previous disinterest looming again. Jake sensed the change and nudged her, and she knelt to pet him, breathing deeply. "Focus on the moment," she whispered to herself. "Don't let anything spoil this." Trying to shake off the simmering frustration, she resumed the activities with renewed vigor. During a break, she approached Mark, whose brow was furrowed in concentration as he spoke on the phone. "They're coming to pick me up in a little while for some gaming session," he said, an apologetic grin touching his lips. "It's just a couple of hours." Sarah's heart sank. "So, you're leaving?" "I probably should go," he replied, a hint of regret lacing his words. "But I'll catch you later, all right?" The betrayal of hope pierced through her. She felt the familiar stinging sensation at the back of her eyes. "Mark, this is important to me. Can't you just stay for a little longer? It's just a game night with the guys. You know how it is." His disinterest returned, drowning the fervor that Sarah had fought to build. Mark turned to leave, frustration boiled over. She felt a surge of anger rise within her. "This isn't just a game," she exclaimed. "This is about community, this is about us. Can't you see what you're missing?" The sharpness of her voice made heads turn, and Mark paused, caught off guard. I thought you were having fun," he stammered. "I am having fun. But I also want to share it with you. I need you to actually be a part of this, to invest in us." When did living life become so disposable? The tension escalated, and she noticed that familiar glint of confusion in his eyes. Frustration morphed into concern, and she could see the gears turning in his mind as he assessed their crumbling communication. With a sigh, Mark took a step back. I don't know how to fit into all this." The honesty stung, but it also resonated. Sarah watched as the fear mingled with realization dawned upon him. "You've built a new world for yourself, and I am not part of it," he continued, voice softer now, feeling a flutter of compassion for the man she still loved. Sarah took a breath and let her voice soften. "Mark, we can build this together. We just need to talk. To meet in the middle." Mark searched her eyes, and for a moment, it seemed he might yield. But then the moment shifted. In the distance, thunder rumbled ominously, a sign of impending storms, echoing the growing tension between them. Suddenly, a loud bark erupted from Jake, and the distraction temporarily broke their heavy moment. As if on cue, rain began to pour, swift and sudden, funneling everyone into a frenzy of movement. The atmosphere shifted from one of connection back to one of chaos, and Sarah felt the connection they'd just begun to build slip through her fingers like sand. "Let's rush to the car," Mark shouted over the sound of the rain, breaking the fragile veil of intimacy that had wrapped around them moments before today's rain pelted down. Sarah watched him retreat, the droplets washing away the clarity of their conversation. The world around her blurred amidst the chaos as people shouted, laughter mingling with the sound of splashing rain. But before she could follow, Jake tugged at her sleeve and raced toward a group of dogs scrambling for cover. In the confusion, Sarah felt the familiar wave of helpless frustration threaten to consume her. She chased after Jake, trying to regain a sense of control. As they darted into a nearby gazebo, she caught her breath, the warmth of Jake's fur a reminder of the comfort she craved. But when she turned, her heart dropped. Mark was nowhere to be seen amid the flurry of scrambling people and dogs. "Jake," she called, panic rising in her chest. Where did he go? The rain fell harder, the world blurring in a whirlwind of panic. She fought through clusters of people, searching. The anxiety twisted within her as she felt the storm clouding her mind. "Mark," she shouted, her heart racing with dread. She couldn't lose him, not now, not when they were so close to breaking through. Just as she neared the edge of the parking lot, she spotted him standing under the awning of her car, glancing around, seemingly lost. But before she could reach him, the thunder rumbled again, and the skies unleashed torrents. Mark quickly ducked under the canopy, and that's when the unthinkable happened. A flash of lightning zigzagged across the sky, striking nearby a Mark. She screamed, fear coursing through her veins. In an instant, he turned, and panic etched across his face as chaos consumed him. He dashed for the car, but he slipped on wet pavement, falling hard. Time slowed, and Sarah felt the world around her dissolve, consumed by the rush of adrenaline and fear. Jake leaped forward as Sarah screamed, racing toward Mark. Heart pounding, she watched horror-stricken, praying he would get back to his feet. The rain drummed relentlessly as she pushed through the flood of emotions, threatening to drown her. Her heart raced as she reached him, falling to her knees beside Mark, who was struggling to push himself up. "Are you okay?" she gasped, eyes wide with concern. Mark looked up, breathless and panic-stricken. "I think I'm fine," he panted, eyes darting. "Thank God," she whispered, relief washing over her. She grasped his arm, pulling him upright, utterly submerged in the moment. Underneath the chaos, underneath the rain and the fear, something shifted. "Let's get to the car," she urged, still holding on to him tightly. They hurriedly made their way, water rushing around their feet as they stumbled, laughter seeping through cracks of tension even as thunder rolled ominously in the background. As they reached the car, Sarah turned to him, breathing heavily, the weight of reality settling in. "I was so scared," she admitted. I just don't want to lose you." Mark's expression softened, and for the first time, she could see vulnerability etched into his features. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't realize how much I've withdrawn. I've let my world consume me, thinking it was enough." The rain drummed relentlessly around them, but there in that moment, surrounded by chaos, clarity emerged. "We can build something together," she said softly, her heart racing again. Mark nodded, a flicker of resolve igniting in his gaze. "I want to try, Sarah. I didn't understand how desperately I needed to be part of your world until now." Just then, Jake nudged between them, barking playfully, as if allowing their moment to dissolve back into warmth. They chuckled softly amidst raindrops, the love and loyalty of their furry companion drawing them together. Sarah felt the tension lift even as the rain continued to pour. "Let's go home, together. We can figure things out," she said, determination sparking within her. As they climbed into the car, dripping but relieved, Sarah realized that while storms rage and chaos ensues, there was beauty in connection, a lesson wrapped in storms and laughter. This was their turning point, a chance to rediscover their love, grounded in shared experiences and a community that had welcomed them both. In that vehicle, with Jake nestled securely in the back, they drove home through the cascading rain, a renewed sense of hope blossoming in the wake of uncertainty. Together, they would navigate the complexities ahead, and their journey had just begun.